Welcome to this week's edition of Strategies to Use in the Classroom to help increase student engagement and ownership. We will be exploring checklists and choice boards for the win. Let's get started. Hi guys, my name is Marsha Kish and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be exploring checklists and choice boards to help increase student engagement and ownership. You can find all these videos inside of our website and on dynaguide.org. So please make sure you take time to explore those. First, I'm going to start out by talking about choice boards and what is a choice board. Lately, most of my teachers are saying, Marsha, it feels like one more thing. I want to implement choice boards, but it feels like so much prep work. So today I'm going to showcase low prep choice boards. That means very low teacher prep to get the students to create and design and yield high results. You guys ready? Let's get started. All right, I want to start out by showcasing a choice board. A choice board is the ability for students to pick one or two things to show their understanding of a content or a learning objective. So today on the screen, I have created a total of 12 low prep activities that you can implement into your classroom. I am going to put a mini blog for each one of these, so make sure you check out our blog post, find the link below, but I'm just going to showcase an example of what they look like. So one of the things that I'm going to showcase is a low prep activity means minimal time with the teacher, but allows students to have choice in how they showcase their information. So if I were a classroom teacher, I might pick 2 of these to implement into my checklist. So today I'm going to talk about Caption This and comic strips and how I can use Caption This and comic strips as a choice for my students. Here's what it is. Okay, Caption This. Caption This is where we take a photo or a meme like photo, and the students put captions to go along with it. In this photo, I'm asking the students to showcase their understanding of earthquakes. So here we go. I would have my students take a photo, any photo, build out speech bubbles. Did you hear about the cause of the earthquake? I think they said it was a rapid movement along the fault line. And then the little guy goes, there was an earthquake? When? So you can add in some fun humor to go along with Caption This. But really, when you look at the way that we set this up, the teacher directions would be find a set of photos. You can go online, print out photos. I know there are board games that have photos that you can use. It's kind of like an apples to apples board game type idea, but it's all photo based. You can go through magazines. You can have the students go through magazines. You can even have the students go and find their own photos. But basically, having a set of photos for the students right then and there is going to make their job a little bit easier, and they're going to be focusing more on the content versus looking for a photo. Then, find scrap paper for the speech bubbles. Next, design a rubric, and then finally, post the projects. That is all the work that is needed for the teacher to create Caption This. Let's take a look at the rubric. The rubric that I put together can be used for all of the projects that you will see in that choice board. So what is the content, the word choice, and of course, critical thinking. The main idea is that we're getting the students to create, and we're getting them to collaborate with each other. But we're doing it through photos and speech bubbles. But I still need to really make sure that they are hitting the content standard. So that's why a rubric is really important, because you can really say to the students, if you really use good academic language, hey, add some more words in to show your understanding. Now let's look at it from the lens of the students. So inside of their checklist, there will be a directions section that says Feature Ready, Caption This. And when you do that, you're going to have day 1 where they're going to be doing research. I love this idea because not only does it give me what day to do it on, it gives me a checkbox, and also tells me how much time. I need to set my timer for 6 minutes. So it gives me quick, simple directions. I'm going to spend time to research my photo, find a photo. I'm going to spend time to create on day 2. And on day 3, I'm going to finish and record. That's right. I don't want the students just to post. I want them to practice discourse and talking about their topic that they're learning. So they are going to record And inside of Schoology, they can record inside of Canvas. They can record inside of flip.com. They can record anywhere that you have the ability for them to contain that information with a photo and their voices. If you want to add their faces in, that's even more of a plus. But that's it. This one activity that takes very little prep from the teacher can last a total of 3 days. So that's option 1. Option 1, caption this. Now let's go back and let's take a look at, I said I was going to do a comic strip. Okay, we'll do comic strip. I said I was going to do that one. Let's do that one. Okay, comic strip. Everybody understands comic strips. We know what they look like with sequencing of events, putting things in order. This makes a lot of sense. I'm adding just a little bit of twist to this. So the teacher is just going to have construction paper set up. They're going to have examples, and they're going to design their rubric. Guess what? It's the same rubric that goes with caption this. And then they're going to post their projects. Now, I also find a lot of templates. If you look at comic strip templates, there are a ton out there that are free, like the one I'm showing you on the screen. So I can have those and or just 3x3 pieces of paper. Here's a sample of the rubric. Now let's chunk our project. Day 1, they're going to plan out what does their comic strip look like. They're going to find a partner. They're going to sit down. They're going to talk about how they're going to create their comic strip. Comic strips also work really great for math. What do you do at the beginning of the problem? What's your next step? What are you going to do next? And or how do you apply that skill into the real world? Day 2, design and create. So now the students are going to design and create their comic strip. Here's a hint. A comic strip where you have students all working on one person is doing the majority of the work. So what do? I give them 3x3 pieces of paper or Post-it notes that they make their comic strip out of. That way everybody is taking a turn. Day 2. Day 3, they're going to finish up the comic strip and they're going to put it onto a piece of paper. Tape it down, ready to go, and then hang it up on the wall. And you guessed it, they might even have time to record their voices going over that comic strip. I put down here using Vocaroo. So the students take a photo of their comic strip, they go to vocaroo.com, record their voices, and generate a QR code. That QR code could go right on the comic strip example that's posted around the room, and then students can use their phones or their Chromebooks to scan to hear them reading the comic strip. Choice boards. I just gave you 2 examples. I gave you an example of using caption this or comic strips. Next, we're going to go in and talk about checklists, and I'm going to show you how the checklists work with a choice board. All right, we're looking at an example of a checklist. This is a 4-studio checklist, meaning the studios will go to a small group, they will go to an independent practice, they'll go to digital content, and they'll go to a future-ready activity. And while the students are doing that, they are going to be able to move either with a timer or they'll be able to move at their own pace, depending on where you are in the learning studios. The checklist is really important because it gives directions. It allows you to see how much time you're going to spend on an activity. It checks for quick understanding of the content. And it gives just that ownership of the students. Like, I don't have to go ask the teacher for questions. The checklist is going to be there. And the checklist is going to tell me. And if I can't figure it out on the checklist, I can ask a friend instead of going up and bothering the teacher. So that's one thing that I really like about the checklist. It allows the teacher to be with the students while she's conducting a small group. With the students, meaning she wrote out the directions. She has all the directions there. So this is an example of a 4-studio checklist. Now I'm going to show you an example of a checklist, a multiple day checklist with student choice. So I just showed you caption this and the comic strip and how it took 3 days for them to complete the different activities. So this is a 3-day checklist. The teacher's going to be doing small group on day 1, small group on day 2, and small group on day 3, while the students are working in independent practice, digital content, and their choice board. So you can see right down below it says Future Ready Choice Board. When we are going in and putting that together and we're looking at those choices, like if I have captioned this and or the comic strip, I can put it right there. So there's only 2 choices. but they are creating and collaborating together, which is really important. That's what a choice board is all about. So hopefully you're catching on to this. The choice board is a part of the checklist, not something different. It's not like another thing to add on. It's like, no, you still have to create, collaborate, and work together with your partner. You're just going to do it inside of the Future Ready Studio. So three different choices is great, but if that's too many, you go with 2 like I just showed you. 3 is good because you can kind of pick and choose. But some of our teachers eventually get to a 6-choice board because they have taught the students each one of those skills from the low prep creation board that I have just showcased to you. So they have taught each of those different activities. So they're going to pick 6 of these to put into the choice board. And then I do have some teachers who even take a step further and they do 9 choices. So that way the kids have a little bit more choice and freedom to what they want to work on. To be honest, a 3-choice board is completely fine. That's enough choice for everybody to pick from, especially if you're doing the low prep activities. Okay, now, when I go forward and I'm looking at this, remember, this is my checklist. The choice board is housed inside of the Future Ready section of the checklist. And that is where we'll go in and we'll break down what they need to do for day 1 and day 2. Those activities I have listed on the back, and of course this will be part of the blog post, but I have listed them as separate activities, but you could have these posted, these directions, on Schoology or Canvas or your learning management system, or since it's just 2 choices, I could have caption this and comic strip right there on the bottom of my checklist. So just to give you options, that way you don't have to go and print one more piece of paper out. Let's go into a little bit more checklist. Okay, here's an example of a checklist. This is a 1-day checklist with the option of a lock. The lock is set up that the students can't go to independent practice until they attend the small group. So they have to kind of do it in sequential order. They have to do everything, but they will eventually get to independent practice. I like this checklist because it's simple. It's at the beginning of the year. They're just introducing the students to the checklist. But when we get into checklist itself, we want more interaction, or else this checklist is just going to end up on the ground. So we want the students to engage with the checklist, mark it off, check how much time, put down their answers. Maybe they put in a bar graph. And I'll explain all that in just a minute. Here's another example of a checklist that has interactive points. When they're in a small group, they're going to be taking notes. And then when they're not with the teacher, they're going to be going in and answering questions. They have check boxes. It tells them what they need to do first, second, and third. I love this. Here's another example of a checklist. I love this checklist, but I do want to let you know that it's a little bit wordy for 3rd grade. So we just want to be cautious of how many words we put into our checklist. We want short and concise directions, not too overwhelming. My overwhelming directions, like I have here, might be posted at the Future Ready Studio and or on Schoology, Canvas, Google Classroom, so on and so forth. All right, taking a quick pause. Now we're going to be talking about what you should put into a checklist. So here are 10 elements to add to your checklist. Number 1, it's a checklist. There should be check-off boxes. This is a more than a 2-day checklist. I think they did it for 4 days. So therefore, they're going to be independent reading 3 different times. So there's 3 different check boxes. Number 2, add the date. The date is really important because that way you know what day you need to be giving it out to the students. But also when the students are walking around with their checklist, you want to make sure that this is the correct checklist. Another reason why to put the date is that you can quickly find it when you go Google search your Google Drive folder. You type in April, and April checklist will pop up. Number 3, add in studio names. Make sure that you are being consistent and calling the studios what they are. Small group, independent practice, digital content, and future ready. If you don't like the word future ready for a learning studio, then change it. But just make sure everybody on your team or in your building changes it to the same name. So make sure you add in studio names. Number 4, time amounts. How much time do you need to have to complete that activity? Number 5, simple directions. Just like we saw in that elementary example, it's great, but there was just too much wording. So you want to create short and to the point directions. Create your puppet and record. Remember, at your studio locations, you can have more in detailed directions. I think I'm on number 6, QR code. I love QR codes because, again, it puts me in right there for the students. I'm at a small group, but they can quickly go and scan the QR code and hear me say the directions, or giving simple tricks and tips to how to complete that project. QR codes are great for voice directions or also for quick links to videos. Like if you're using an Edpuzzle, scan that, it'll take you right to the Edpuzzle. I think I'm number 7, I think, for self-reflection. I should have had those numbered. I apologize if I have miscounted. Self-reflection is where the students, when they're done with that activity, they are going to color in that cute little face, either red, yellow, or green. Red, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. Yellow, I'm getting it. And green, I'm good to go. I can teach somebody else. So they can color in how they are doing. Number 8, interact with the checklist. If you give a checklist like the first one that we saw, it's too basic. Those are going to end up on the floor. So you want some interaction element where students are filling in a bar graph or doing some reflection. So going in and highlighting, color that in, key. Number 9, signature box. You want to make sure you have the ability to sign off on the checklist. Those are kind of like quick little checkpoints. You're in your small group, you're working with a team, but when there's a break in the action, maybe the next group's coming back, students come back to you and they say, can you sign off on my checklist? Or when they come to your small group, you can sign off on those spots if they have them completed. And I think this is my last one, number 10, lock and key. Sometimes we need to teach the students how to complete that activity. So on Wednesday, the teacher is going to go over how to complete the blurb character activity. So they can't do it until Wednesday after a small group. A lock and a key system is just a signal saying you will be able to do this. You just have to wait to learn what to do before you go and do that activity. 10 things to add to a checklist. Choice boards go into the checklist. So when you go in and look at the low prep activities, you're going to pick 1 or 2 of them, or 3, to put into the checklist. And the students will be able to work through those activities over 3 days. Low prep activities, examples of checklist, key elements of checklist, and how the checklist and choice boards are connected. You guys, thank you for hanging tight with me this week. Make sure you check out our blog post. Make sure you go to DynaGuide. Make sure you're following me. There's so many things that we always love to share. Have a good week, and we will see you next week for coaching tips and tricks. This is a good one if you're an instructional coach or an admin. See you next week.